Hello, FarmBits followers, and welcome to another episode of the FarmBits.
I am Anna,
And I'm Rana.
and we are glad to have you here with us as a beginning discussion on agriculture in space.
Especially using lunar soil with Cassie Palmer, a graduate student from the Biological System Engineering Department at UNL.
I'm currently in my second year of my PhD program here at UNL. Before starting here at UNL, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Bioinformatics from Omaha, so University of Nebraska at Omaha. There I did a lot of work with computer coding and database work, but I was required to have a undergraduate internship or research experience in order to graduate. So when the time was coming around, thought to myself, oh, maybe I'll go look at Lincoln professors that might be of interest or places that I might want to go to grad school and PIs that I'd want to work with. So I reached out to Yufeng Ge, who is in the biological systems engineering. He does a lot of work with plant phenotyping. He's also the plant phenomics director. So he is pretty much in charge of the Greenhouse Innovation Center. And he actually had a project for me where he wanted me to grow soybean in lunar soil simulant. And I was like, well, this is perfect. Like I love space, love science, always have. And so from that project on, that's kind of been my focus, and that's why I'm here. I'm in the complex biosystems program, which is primarily computational biology students. But because space agriculture is such an interdisciplinary field, my background in bioinformatics and my love for space and thinking outside the box really allows me to work with Yufeng through BSc and then also through the complex biosystems program.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really an interesting story. I would like to dig more, like why you have such a interest in space. Because it's interesting, like you studied computer science before, but you finally ended up in space research. So can you tell us more about it?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. When I was little and I was growing up, we had a house that was a little bit further outside of the city. And so we had a really big back porch. And every single night I would just sit out on the back porch and look at the stars. Same with my dad. My dad would sit out there with me and we'd look at all the stars and talk about the stars. And at that moment, I knew I loved space. But I didn't know the whole complexity of it. So going through all of my years of school, you would learn little tidbits about space. I think about the video they showed in 7th grade science where they had the picture of the United States and then they blew it out to the globe and then they compare the Earth to all of the other planets in the solar system. And then after that, they keep going. And that just piqued my interest right away because I was like, there's so much out there that you can find out through science. So as I worked on my stuff, my degree and I was getting my education completed, I always focused on science classes. And I knew that having a background in either computational biology or something dealing with computers would benefit me for having a future career in the space sciences.
Okay, that's super cool.
So interesting. And can you explain us how to start in being involved of that? Like where we can beginning to be a person that it's interested in space, where we should go?
Yeah, if you're interested in space and you're looking for how to get started, something that our Space 2 group, it stands for Space Policy, Agriculture, Climate, and Extreme Environment. We worked with Dawes and Lincoln Northeast Middle School last spring on a project called Plant the Moon. And so Plant the Moon is run by NASA. and you pay your registration fee, and you are able to grow your own plants in lunar or Martian regolith stimulant. So it gives you a really like awesome opportunity to try out the whole regolith process and how to plant things and think about it in a guided format. And then it's also a competition. So if you're, if you've got a group of other students that you want to work with, you can compete with different teams internationally.
Although this is an international thing, so
Yeah.
everyone can try to participate it.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
So it's definitely something that last year as a coach, you're going through like different submissions from different teams, and you're looking at the different teams, and you see homeschool families, you see actual families where, you know, maybe like their mom's just running the science experiment as their home spring activity. But it's so fascinating. And so I really think that that would be a brilliant way for someone who is interested in space agriculture to get involved with it and see how many other people are out there involved with it. Other ways to get involved in space agriculture, of course, reading the literature. As a PhD student, that's the only thing that I can say, of course, is reading the literature. It's a great way to see what people are doing. And then the other thing, if you are interested in space agriculture, is of course watching The Martian. The Martian is the movie with Matt Damon. Yes.
That's a
And
cool
so,
one.
Yep. And so I had not seen The Martian until, goodness gracious, I want to say it was last November, so November of 2022. I saw The Martian for the first time. And leading up to me seeing The Martian for the first time, people always ask me like, oh, so you're doing the Martian work? And I was like, I don't know what the Martian is. And
So at that time you still have like no clue what's that.
So at that time I had no idea what the Martian was. And I think the Martian is a great way to connect to the general public or people who might not be in a research setting with them understanding your work. So yeah.
And
you for
the good
sharing.
thing is like you're not using all the things that he used in Marshall's movie, so we are good.
Exactly. Yeah. So but The Martian is a great way to I think for, like I said, the general public and maybe people that might not be familiar with agriculture.
I think it's a great way to start, like to know like what space is, sort of this thing like that.
And to put yourself in the shoes of like, you know, if you are to go to space, whether you're on the ISS, you're on the moon, or you're on Mars, you're going to have to produce your own food. You might be faced with difficult challenges where you cannot like allocate enough resources to food production or to other parts of your life. And so in space agriculture, we're thinking about it from a bioregenerative and closed system way of how can we not only produce food, but also do so sustainably, efficiently, and then also the byproducts of food processing is going to have extreme benefits. So it could be used for biofuels, it could be used for medicines, it could be used for animals, whatever it is. Space agriculture can have downstream applications.
Wow, that's fascinating. That me personally just know like there's a huge scope that space agriculture can contribute. So you mentioned that here in UNL you work in the Space 2 project. Do you want to elaborate more, like what is the research that you guys do there maybe?
They're the best way to describe Space 2, I'll be blunt and honest, it is a CALIS grant. It's from the funding. So the funding group from the CALIS, Nebraska Grand Challenges CALIS proposals. So we have faculty from agronomy and horticulture, biological systems engineering. We have faculty from the law school, faculty from performing arts, And then we also have faculty from Omaha and food science.
Mhm.
So with that, we're trying to really take an interdisciplinary
Mhm.
approach to come up with a big project.
Mhm.
So that's why so far over the last 2 years, I did my small soybean project.
Mhm.
We did the Plant the Moon project with the Dawes in Lincoln Northeast Middle School. And so right now we are trying to come up with a big project for 5 years from now. I never got specification if I can tell you what we are trying to propose
Mhm.
for our big project, but I will say that our goals of being efficient, sustainable, and bioregenerative are driving our project and what we're hoping to do.
That is so interesting, like thinking the space and how to do everything. And can you explain how you and all your background get involved into space too? Like, where is your role in that history?
Yeah, getting into space too. When Yufeng had reached out to me or when we were communicating, because I
Mhm.
reached out to him, it was maybe August or July of 2022.
Mm.
He had just found out that they got the first year of the Grand Calist proposal funding.
Mhm.
And so for the funding project. And so he was actually actively looking for undergraduate or graduate students that could work on the project because he said it best, and I hate saying it as a grad student, but we do the work, we do the research, we're
Yeah.
out on the streets working with people, we're writing things, we're in the lab.
Mhm.
He's behind the scenes, maybe sending the emails, trying to get us to conferences, trying to bring in people.
Mhm.
And so he just didn't have anyone to do the dirty work, essentially, do all the like hard work for
Yeah.
him. And so he was actively looking for someone. I reached out and he was like, perfect. You can work with me.
Yeah.
And since then I've loved it. I'm grateful to stay in Nebraska because I am from Omaha.
Mhm.
And I absolutely love all of the faculty that I work with.
Yeah.
So nice.
That's kind of like a great match because you have this interest for space and you finally found like this project, right?
It's awesome. It really is awesome. Back in November, I had submitted a NASA proposal for
Mhm.
a fellowship, and so I still have to wait until April to find out. But when I was writing my personal statement, I was reflecting on my love of space over all these years and how I always was applying for NASA internships in
Mhm.
middle school and high school, for summer camps. And
Yeah.
although I was never selected, my love for space never dwindled. And so
Mhm.
I've always wanted to do this. And so it definitely is a full circle moment where you're looking back at your life and you're like, I'm doing what I've wanted to do for as
Yeah.
long as I can remember.
Yeah, I think you're already like in a right path, and we hope that maybe in April you can get a good news for that fellowship, right?
Yeah, please let us know about that. It sounds really interesting. Has something related with NASA.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work out, I can apply again.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other opportunities that are springing up left and right.
So, hey NASA, if you're hearing us, she's really need this project, and we would love to help her to do that.
Yeah, that's true. As you mentioned, like before, you plant the crops with the regolith soil, which, if I'm not mistaken, coming from the moon. So, do you want like to let us know, like, how can you plant with the soil from the moon? Because what we know, like, we need to plant in the organic soil, right? Like soil with high amount of organic and the chocolate color, not like the gray, like the lunar soil. So, yeah, that's
Something with the aggregates. Yeah. So that is something that is a really big focus for Space Ag is in situ resource utilization. And so if you think about going to the moon, you can use hydroponics. But hydroponics can require very fine-tuned measurements. If you're growing a variety of crops, you might have to be very particular with what mineral nutrients you are putting into the system. And then the other thing to consider too is the water requirements of the hydroponic system. A lot of researchers and literature has suggested that in situ resource utilization for either extracting minerals from the surface of the moon or the surface of Mars, or extracting minerals from byproducts of astronaut waste could be used to terraform the lunar soil into something like that of Earth. And soil like that here on Earth would be a little bit more nutrient balanced, so you wouldn't have to put as much nutrients into the system. It would have different water holding capacity, and so you might not need to use as much water in the agriculture system. And so, as you were mentioning, you can't really do that with lunar regolith because it's just rocks. It's just rocks. They've brought back samples from all of the different Apollo missions. They do all of the mineralogy and chemical and all the just geology analyses, and they find that there's a whole lot of heavy metals. The particles are very sharp. There's a lot of dust on the moon. It is exposed to radiation because it is it does not have an atmosphere like the sun. And so with that, if we were to, like, let's say we went outside with like a shovel or something, we scooped up some regolith, we brought it in, and we're like, we're gonna plant plants with this. We have to apply a little bit more organic matter, whether it's a nutrient solution. Maybe you could use like microbacteria or microalgae that are capable of extracting the minerals, or even worms. They're commonly used to aggregate and, like, we'll just say, like, grind down the material and transform it with their own organic matter. So there are a lot of different research avenues to take for terraforming the regolith. I'm not primarily focused on that right now, but yes. I think did that answer? Good.
That's clear. That's so clear.
That is really nice. So you also mentioned some projects that is related with space too, like the planting moon and everything. Can you share us how the people that is hearing us today can participate, or if it has other challenges that they can also participate in?
Yeah, so the Plant the Moon for spring 2024, that's where we're at now. It did start back in January, so they do have spring and fall competitions. If someone were interested in participating in that in the future, they can participate in the fall. The lab, or the industry, I guess, that provides the lunar and Martian regolith, they are called Exolith, EXOLITH. I'll spell that out so listeners can look that up. But Exolith Labs allows you to purchase kilograms at a time of regolith simulant. So if you wanted to purchase it and start experimenting with growing plants, you can do so. Other opportunities for getting involved in the space to work, hopefully within a couple of months, we'll find out about our future project funding. So should that end up in our favor, we'll definitely have more outreach projects, and we'll definitely be working with the community and a bunch of other faculty and departments here at UNO.
Really?
Oh, that's cool. I would love to join if I'm still here.
Me too.
Right?
I wish it was kind of like a club, you know, because I think that everybody that I talk to, they are very interested in the work, and they're like, oh, I'd love to work with you, or I'd love to, like, you know, grow plants with you. And it's hard for me to tell them that it's not a club, it's my research, and so I can't afford, and Yufeng can't afford paying for another grad student to work with me. But if anyone is interested in having a club, hit me up. We can start a space agriculture club. Maybe it could be a group of students that want to do the Plant the Moon, or maybe it's a group of students that spend a lot of time keeping up with space research and thinking of different ways to grow plants or terraform soil, whatever it is.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. I was chatting with some friends about our topic today, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Oh, but UNL have something to do with a space egg as well." I didn't know about. So most of the people also don't know. And that idea to have a
Mhm.
club, you'd be amazing because this also can improve your project as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people will know about this. Maybe they have the interest, but they don't know like where to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. I think another thing too is I think about myself in growing up and then also in college.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I wanted to do space agriculture. I just knew I wanted to do space. So I thought maybe, you know, I go to school, get my bioinformatics degree because I'm doing computational biology. I could do human biology in space and work with astronaut metabolic pathway changes and whatnot. But that degree path also led me to doing space agriculture, which is, you know, just a different form of what I thought I could do. And so to anyone who is interested in space, I just invite you to think about like different ways that your interests or your strengths might be able to apply to the space environment, because it's not just space agriculture, it's just space in general. And a lot of different views and different knowledge bases can really contribute to the longevity and the impact of our project and whatever we do.
Yeah, so that's interesting. As you mentioned, like about the Plant the Moon challenge, can we plant like any crops there, or like is there any specific crops that we should grow? Because I don't know, like
Yeah.
the soil is kind of like that.
With the Plant the Moon challenge, that challenge is designed specifically for 8 weeks. So that would be 56 days of having your plants in the soil. Very few plants can reach full maturity or close to full maturity by 56 days. And so they traditionally recommend that you're focused on lettuce, leafy greens, maybe some other sort of fast growing salad crop essentially.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I like to think about space agriculture, I'll just say, is because I don't want to eat salad for the rest of my life. I do like a lot of other foods, and I because I'm a Nebraska girl, I love my corn. And I think that you could grow plants for a longer period of time should you not participate in the Plant the Moon competition. You could definitely go past the 56 days of plant growth and do something a little bit bigger or something that might have a longer growth stage.
Yeah, you're right. So also thinking that like all the project being the moon and space, we always getting connected with technology. So there is any specific technology that you guys are using or projecting that you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking about the Greenhouse Innovation Center.
Yep.
And if you have not been there, it has 4 different imaging modules with 4 different cameras. So visible, near infrared, hyperspectral, and then fluorescent. And so from pictures that are taken at different angles of every single side of the plant, including top view, with those different cameras, you are able to extract pertinent information relating to the plant growth and responses. So it's phenotype. And so something like that would be useful for space, because if you think about it, like I'm in my big astronaut suit, I might have to be outside of the plant growth module all day. I'm not going to be able to take care of my plants. But if there's an automated system that is able to take pictures of the plants, analyze them, understand what kind of stressors are going on, you could potentially develop a robotic or automated system that can strategically treat the plant stress and the plant response so that you are not at risk of losing agricultural yield due to many stresses that plants might experience in space.
Wow, that's really a
Yeah.
brilliant idea. Like, integrating the computing part and image analysis, I
Yeah.
guess, right? To that kind of analyzing the plan.
Yeah. Other technologies that we are looking into are smart environmental controls. So something that is able to efficiently maintain the ideal pressure and temperature within a plant growth module.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking into solar panel use and efficiency. So if solar panels were on the moon or on Mars, how much solar power can they extract? How can they dissipate most effectively? And then I think we're also starting to look into a little bit of communications and like I said earlier, autonomous systems. So how far away from this robotic system can you be for it to work?
Okay, so the idea is kind of like connecting the energy that you got like from the sun, and you transform it to, like working for the robot
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, so that could be
Oh.
one form of getting the energy. The other form of getting the energy is breaking down the food or human waste and then turning that into some sort of fuel or some sort of heat reaction to get the needed energy for the system. So there are definitely a lot of components that go into making a working and cohesive space environment.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Mhm.
And about everything that you collected, all the data that you collected, after you get all this information, as you already mentioned, that you do the hard work for your professor.
Doing the hard work.
So how you getting the analyzing of those, being a graduate student? So
Yeah.
how you deal with this?
So I've previously analyzed the images of a soybean experiment. So I grew soybeans in lunar mare regolith simulant in fall of 2022. In fall of 2022 and then winter of 2023, I was doing some image analysis using MATLAB, doing a bunch of code. After I got my numbers from my code, I put it just into Python, did some plots, and then since then I've been writing my first manuscript. Going forward, I have a new growth experiment that I'm designing. It'll be based on Martian regolith, and it will be with added perchlorate, which is a ion that's commonly found on the Martian surface. It's very toxic to plant growth and human growth, and so I'm just seeing essentially kind of what concentration of perchlorate plants can grow at, and if we were to have to go through perchlorate remediation processes on the Mars, if it's more expensive to do perchlorate reduction from the soil, what's that like max level of perchlorate that plants could grow at? That way, if we need to allocate resources efficiently, we know that plants could grow in, a small amount of perchlorate.
Okay. So
That is interesting. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of like see the threshold, like
Essentially
how
see the
long
threshold.
or like
Yeah.
how far the crops can grow.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's my next step. I don't know what my next step will be after that. Maybe I'll work with some people that are experts on plant growth and responses in cold temperatures or under
Extreme condition.
extreme conditions. And maybe work with some people on transforming genotypes of different crops in order to prepare them for a better response in extreme
Yeah, there's still a lot of research to
Oh,
discover,
yeah.
right? So I was like wondering, with this current research that you've done so far, what is the biggest challenge like for growing the crops or even like analyzing like in terms of this research?
Yeah, so I guess I forgot to mention one of
Mhm.
the small projects that I did, but I'll talk about my soybean project.
Mhm.
When I was growing my soybeans, I was thinking to myself, okay, how am I gonna like grow my plants? What care regimen am I going to do?
Mhm.
And talking to the people at the greenhouse, they advise that I do like one fertilizer application a week. So
Mm.
at full strength fertilizer, apply once a week, and then water every other day or every other like every single day.
Mhm.
But after that, literature started getting published. There was one specific article that came out, I think, May of 2022. So it inspired a lot of my work. But when it was published in May, it did not have complete materials and methods that detailed out what they were doing.
Mhm.
And so they finally updated it, I think, in December of 2022.
Mhm.
And they updated that they were doing a very low dose nutrient solution or fertilizer every single day. And they reported that they did pilot studies where the low dose nutrient solution every single day
Mhm.
had better growth than traditional fertilizing
Mm.
regimens. And so after reading that and finding that out, I understood that my plants did not grow because
Mm.
they didn't grow as well and they became completely stunted because they were just getting too much fertilizer at
Yeah.
full strength. But giving them a little bit lower dose of fertilizer over time allows them to kind of like strategically grow with how much
Mm.
fertilizer they have in the soil. And it also prevents a little bit more of the salt stress due to how much salt is in
Mm.
normal nutrient solutions.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the most like difficult part, is trying to find out the best nutrient solution that you can use and how to keep the nutrient solution from degrading and becoming
Mm.
unstable,
Yeah.
but then also making sure that there's not too much salt in the fertilizer itself, because that'll just lead to salt stress, and the plants are already under enough stress as it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah, in the extreme soil, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that seems be a really challenging because I think we can say that everything that you do in egg here in the earth, you'll be the same that you're gonna do in moon or Mars.
Yeah.
So
It really is the same. And so when as I've been writing my manuscript, I've really been trying to make that argument as like, I'm not trying to problem solve for here or for only on the moon. I'm trying to problem solve for extreme environments and climate change here on Earth, or
Mhm.
places where soil might be completely depleted of nutrients,
Yeah.
or as our population worldwide is just booming,
Mhm.
we're going to have to start using soil at a different rate and using soil that we haven't used before. And so how can we optimize plant growth and also be mindful of environmental conditions, cultural practices, and then also the normal diets of the people.
Mhm.
yeah,
So,
that is really interesting because it's the way that you can connect it, the moon with the earth. Like, why
Yeah.
you're searching the moon if you have this problem? No, you are searching right.
yeah,
That's really nice.
thank you.
Because like usually people think like why we should care about something outer space when we still have like, some soil here. But I think it's really interesting that you can see the dots there.
Yeah. Uh, I'm thinking of a cartoon, and a lot of times when you were little, you saw, I think, the Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
They depicted a futuristic world, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how did they picture that world? They had flying cars, they had really tall
Mhm.
buildings, they had robots everywhere. And so, although that's an alternate reality of where we actually are,
Mhm.
right now I'm trying to think about, okay, what would Earth look like 50 years
Yeah.
from now? What kind of
Mhm.
challenges we be facing? And how can we solve those problems by thinking about life now on space? Because life now on space is going to be limited by so many factors. And so if we can think about how to live fully
Mhm.
in a limited environment, we can use those solutions and those techniques and technologies to benefit the lives on Earth.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice. This is really interesting. So think on that. Say that you're already thinking 50 years ago. What will be the next steps? Where you gonna think that you go, even your personal or even your project?
Yeah, I think in general, the next steps for space agriculture, they
Mhm.
have the Artemis mission coming up, and they've got a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different
Artemis.
uh small mm, oh my goodness, they just have a whole bunch of small vesicles that are be able to go to
Oh.
the moon. And so we might be involved in designing a project that could be on that vehicle that's going to the moon, or maybe we are involved in some way working with the Artemis mission with providing food or
Yeah.
designing a system for them to use.
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of opportunities, and I think with like small research projects like the vesicles and like the Artemis mission, will be able to kind of guide the future for space ag.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Like people now already like projecting what's going to be happen like many, many years in the future. And I think we should be ready for that, right?
Yeah.
With all the, this situation on our earth now, I
Mhm.
think it's better to think early about the solution.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. You need to hurry up. So we are almost getting the end of our episode.
Mhm.
So where we can find more information about Space 2 and you as well, how we can reach out to you.
Yeah, I'm very inactive on social media, so if anyone finds me on social media, it might be about like 3 weeks for me to follow you back or get back to you if you sent me a message. But I do respond very quickly to my email. My email is cpalmer9@huskers.unl.edu. If you're interested in learning more about the Space 2 project, we do have a website, or I guess more of a web page. It's on the BSE homepage. I think it's bse.edu or unl.edu/bse/space2. There's if you're also interested in talking to me, you can find me here at Chase Hall. I'm down in the basement, but you can find me in my office most of the day. And then if you don't want to talk to me and you want to talk to anyone else, there's another grad student working with me. His name is Hassan. And then there's a couple of other faculty members, like I said, and they are in all departments. So if you ask any faculty who's working on space, they might be able to point you in the right direction.
To everyone also, we're gonna put all the links that she mentioned
Yeah.
in the description of this video and this podcast as well.
Yeah, so as we already talked about this mind-blowing research and like from the beginning and the future projection, so is there anything that we didn't talk about that you might want to add or share to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I did say that hydroponics might have a couple of downfalls, but a really big, I think, important mindset to have in not only the research space, but also thinking about space agriculture is all approaches are valid. So hydroponics, although there's speculation that it might not be affected,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is not effective. I'm just saying I grew up with soil-based cropping methods, and so that's what I'm used to, and that's how I see things working forward from here. And if you think of something that's, outside of the box for space ag,
Yeah.
propose it, talk about it, because it's valid, and I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, and also it's really nice to highlight hydroponics can be think in another way, like you mentioned, the nutrition for your plants. You can like associate something that is related with hydroponics and soil and maybe reaches something. So
Yeah.
if you have any idea, reach Cassie. She knows.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, but
Well, at least
I
we
do
can
love
have discussion, right?
Yeah.
Like brainstorming
Oh,
together.
yes. I do love to chat. So
Yes. So, as a tradition here in FarmBits, we want to ask you for a piece of advice. Can be anyone that it's right now listen this and think, oh, I really want to work with a space egg, or I want to go to space. What is your advice for everyone that's listening you?
Don't give up, and always think about where that love for what you want to do started from. I think that's what's kept me going all these years is, I think about little me on the back porch looking at the
Yeah.
stars. And I think about that video from 7th grade, and it just inspires me each and every day because I think about how I can be the person that inspires the young girl, the young kid, the person that might want to be in space, but they don't know how they're going to be in space. And so if I can push the boundaries and have a smile on my face while I do so, I think that'll be important for inspiring the next generation of students, leaders, and astronauts.
That's really nice.
Yeah, thank you, Cassie, for sharing. This is really like inspiring for us because you start from, like a little girl that loves stargazing until you finally do the space agriculture research by yourself. So, yeah, it's really amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing to talk about that. And to everyone that's listened, please keep on going and dream about these stars. Thank you very much, Cassie, for taking at the time to join to this episode of the FarmBit podcast.
It is really exciting to unravel the research of planting crop with lunar soil and with the touch of technology on it.
One of my favorite part at this episode and on this company is doing about little Cassie dreams and how she loved the space until she can work in the egg space right now.
I also think that it is fascinating to know how the space egg is actually have many relations with our Earth condition than we used to think before.
Especially supporting the extreme condition that you're having and offering solutions for the next steps.
I hope you enjoyed the episode and we look forward to sharing another digital egg story with you next week on FarmBits Podcast.